The night was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that made people glance at the sky, wondering if something was about to happen. It was a normal evening for most of the world. People were finishing dinner, kids were playing outside, and cities buzzed with their usual noise. But in the vastness of space, something extraordinary was unfolding. For centuries, humanity had gazed up at the stars, dreaming of alien life, imagining what it might look like. No one ever thought they'd actually come face to face with it, and certainly not like this. Far above Earth's atmosphere, an eerie glow appeared in the darkness of space. At first it seemed like a trick of light, maybe a reflection from the moon or some strange atmospheric phenomenon. But then the glow grew brighter, pulsing with an unnatural energy. Within moments, dozens of massive ships emerged from the void. They were sleek, metallic, and utterly alien. Their designs were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Sharp edges, glowing patterns, and surfaces that shimmered as if alive. These weren't explorers or curious visitors. This was an invasion force. The largest ship hung ominously in orbit, its size dwarfing even the biggest human-made structures. It was shaped like a dagger, its surface covered in jagged protrusions that looked almost organic. From its core emanated a low hum, vibrating through the airwaves and sending shivers down the spines of anyone who heard it. The aliens aboard these ships hadn't come to negotiate or make friends. They had come to conquer. Back on Earth, panic began to spread faster than wildfire. News outlets scrambled to report what was happening, but no one could explain it. Governments tried to issue calming statements, urging citizens to stay indoors and avoid panic. But how do you calm billions of people when the skies are filled with alien warships? Social media exploded with videos of the ships hovering over major cities. People pointed their phones upward, capturing footage of the glowing vessels casting eerie shadows over skyscrapers. In New York, Tokyo, London, and countless other cities, crowds gathered in streets and parks, staring upward in awe and terror. Military forces around the globe went on high alert. Fighter jets scrambled into the skies, circling nervously around the alien ships. Missiles were readied, tanks rolled out, and soldiers prepared for battle. But everyone knew deep down that conventional weapons wouldn't stand a chance against technology, so advanced it seemed magical. Still, humanity couldn't just sit back and do nothing. So, the armies of the world stood ready, hoping against hope that diplomacy might still be possible. But diplomacy wasn't on the aliens' agenda. A transmission crackled across every frequency, broadcast directly into homes, cars, and phones worldwide. The voice was mechanical, cold, and devoid of emotion. "Your world is ours," it said in broken English. "Surrender now or face annihilation." The message repeated itself over and over, each word sinking deeper into the collective psyche of humanity. There was no room for negotiation, no opportunity to plead for mercy. The aliens had declared their intentions clearly: surrender or die. For a brief moment, the world froze. Parents hugged their children tighter. Friends called loved ones to say goodbye. Some people prayed, others cried, and many simply stared blankly at the ground, unable to process what was happening. Humanity had always feared this day would come, the day when extraterrestrial beings arrived not as guests, but as conquerors. And now here it was, unfolding in real time. But amidst the chaos there was a glimmer of hope, a secret buried deep beneath the Arctic ice. Hidden from the rest of the world, a group of scientists, engineers, and visionaries had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. They called themselves Project Phoenix, named after the mythical bird that rises from ashes. Their mission was simple yet audacious: ensure humanity's survival, no matter the cost. For years, they had worked tirelessly, pouring resources and knowledge into developing technologies far beyond anything publicly known. Now their work would finally be put to the test. Project Phoenix operated out of a sprawling underground facility codenamed Sanctuary. Located miles below the frozen tundra, Sanctuary was a marvel of engineering. Massive power generators hummed softly, providing energy to sustain the complex. Rows of computer terminals blinked with streams of data, monitored by dedicated teams, working around the clock. At the heart of it all stood Commander Elena Vasquez, the leader of Project Phoenix. She was a woman of sharp intellect and unshakable resolve, her eyes reflecting both the weight of responsibility and the fire of determination. When news of the alien fleet reached Sanctuary, Vasquez wasted no time. She called an emergency meeting, with her top advisors briefing them on the situation. "This isn't just an invasion," she said, pacing the room. "It's an extinction event. If we don't act now, humanity will cease to exist." Her words sent a chill through the assembled team, but they also ignited a spark of defiance. These men and women had trained for this moment. They weren't going to let fear dictate their actions. Vasquez turned to Dr. Samuel Carter, the lead engineer of the project. "Sam, is the fleet ready?" she asked. Carter hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. "As ready as it'll ever be," he replied. "But Commander, we're talking about taking on an alien armada with ships we've never tested. In combat, are you sure this is our only option?" Vasquez locked eyes with him. "We don't have another option," she said firmly. "If we don't fight, we lose everything. If we fight, well, at least we go down swinging." With that, Vasquez gave the order to activate the fleet. Deep within Sanctuary's launch bay, massive doors slid open, revealing rows of starships, unlike anything humanity had ever built. Sleek, angular, and painted black with streaks of crimson, these vessels exuded power and menace. Each bore the emblem of a phoenix rising from flames, a symbol of humanity's resilience and refusal to give up. These were the Aegis-class star destroyers, designed specifically to counter threats from beyond Earth. Armed with experimental plasma cannons, quantum shields, and faster-than-light engines, they represented humanity's last line of defense. As the ships powered up, their crews rushed to their stations. Pilots climbed into cockpits, engineers double-checked systems, and gunners calibrated weapons. Everyone knew the stakes. This wasn't just a mission, it was a suicide run. But none of them flinched. They had signed up for this, knowing full well the risks involved. And now, as the alien fleet loomed closer to Earth, they prepared to meet destiny head-on. Finally, the moment came. With a deafening roar, the Aegis-class star destroyers surged upward, breaking through the Arctic ice and ascending into the heavens. As they pierced Earth's atmosphere, the ships left fiery trails behind them, lighting up the night sky like falling stars. Below, millions of people watched in awe, unaware that salvation had arrived in the form of these dark, ominous vessels. Commander Vasquez sat aboard the flagship, the Erebus, her fingers gripping the armrests of her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked frantically, monitoring screens and relaying orders. Outside the viewport, the alien armada loomed larger with every passing second. "All hands, prepare for engagement," Vasquez ordered, her voice steady, despite the tension in the air. "Remember why we're here, not because we have to fight, but because we can." The aliens noticed the newcomers immediately. Their flagship broadcast another message. "You cannot win. Cease resistance." Vasquez smirked, her lips curling into a defiant grin. Into the comm system she replied, "Watch us." Then, with a flick of a switch, the battle began. Plasma bolts streaked across the void, colliding with alien hulls in brilliant explosions of light and heat. Quantum shields deflected incoming fire, protecting the human fleet from devastating blows. For the first time in history, humanity fought back, not with sticks and stones, but with weapons forged from science and ingenuity. The aliens, caught off guard by the ferocity of the counterattack, faltered. Ships exploded, debris scattered, and the once unstoppable armada began to retreat. On Earth, people cheered as they watched the battle unfold on live broadcasts. Hope, which had been extinguished just hours earlier, reignited. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight, and, though the cost would undoubtedly be high, the spirit of defiance burned brighter than ever before. All hope was lost, until humans stepped in. The battle raged on, a chaotic symphony of light and destruction that lit up the void of space. Plasma bolts streaked across the darkness like fiery arrows, colliding with alien hulls in deafening explosions. The Aegis-class star destroyers moved with precision, their sleek forms weaving through the chaos with a grace that belied their deadly purpose. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the helm of the Erebus, her eyes locked onto the tactical display in front of her. Every ship in her fleet was marked, every movement tracked. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, but there was no time for doubt now. Humanity's fate rested in her hands. The aliens, though caught off guard by the sudden appearance of Earth's fleet, quickly adapted. Their ships, massive and bristling with weapons, began to counterattack with terrifying efficiency. Beams of energy lanced out from their cannons, slicing through space with pinpoint accuracy. One of the smaller Aegis destroyers, the Phoenix Dawn, took a direct hit. Its quantum shield flickered and then collapsed under the assault, leaving the ship exposed. Within seconds, its hull ruptured, spilling debris and flames into the cold vacuum. The crew had no chance to escape. Silence fell over the comms channel as the loss registered among the remaining ships. Vasquez clenched her jaw, forcing herself to stay focused. "Stay sharp," she barked into the comms system. "We knew this wasn't going to be easy. Adjust, formations, tighten up and keep moving." Her voice carried authority, cutting through the tension like a blade. Around her, the bridge crew worked tirelessly, recalibrating shields, rerouting power, and coordinating maneuvers. Each second felt like an eternity, but they couldn't afford hesitation. The aliens were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. If humanity was going to survive, they would have to fight smarter, not harder. Dr. Samuel Carter, stationed aboard the Erebus, monitored the status of the fleet's experimental systems. His fingers danced across the keyboard as he analyzed, data streaming in from the other ships. "Commander," he said urgently, turning to Vasquez, "the plasma cannons are overheating faster than we anticipated. At this rate, we'll lose effectiveness within 20 minutes. Vasquez nodded, grimly. They had known the weapons were untested, but they hadn't expected the strain of prolonged combat to wear them down so quickly. Still, there was no turning back now. "Divert auxiliary power to the cooling systems," she ordered. "And tell the gunners to prioritize high-value targets. We can't waste shots." Carter relayed the instructions, his voice steady despite the knot of fear tightening in his stomach. He glanced at the viewport, watching as another bolt of plasma tore through an alien cruiser. For a brief moment, he allowed himself a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could pull this off. Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis Blade, Lieutenant Marcus Chen led his squadron of fighters into the fray. The smaller ships darted between the larger vessels, launching hit-and-run attacks on the alien fleet. Chen's fighter buzzed past a hulking dreadnought, peppering its surface with laser fire before banking sharply to avoid return fire. His heart pounded in his chest as he executed another evasive maneuver, narrowly missing a blast that would have vaporized him instantly. Behind him, two of his wingmen weren't so lucky. Their ships exploded in bursts of light, leaving behind only trails of wreckage. Chen gritted his teeth, pushing aside the grief that threatened to overwhelm him. There was no time to mourn the fallen. Not yet. "Stick together," he shouted, into his comms. "We're not done yet." His squadron regrouped, their movements synchronized like clockwork. Together, they launched another wave of attacks, targeting the weakest points in the enemy formation. The aliens responded with fury, their weapons tearing through space in pursuit of the agile human fighters. But Chen and his team were relentless, dodging and weaving with a skill born of desperation. Back on Earth, the conflict above played out in real time on television screens and social media feeds. People gathered in streets and parks, their faces illuminated by the glow of phones and tablets as they watched the battle unfold. Some prayed silently, others cried openly, and many simply stared in stunned disbelief. How could humanity stand a chance against such overwhelming odds? Yet, even amid the terror, a sense of pride began to take root. These weren't helpless victims cowering in fear. They were warriors, fighting tooth and nail to protect their home. In cities around the globe, civilians rallied to support the war effort. Factories converted production lines to churn out spare parts and ammunition. Volunteers organized supply drives, collecting food, water, and medical supplies for those affected by the invasion. Amateur radio operators set up makeshift communication networks relaying critical information to Project Phoenix Command. Even children joined in, drawing pictures of starships battling aliens and dreaming of a future where peace might prevail again. But the cost of resistance was mounting. Alien bombardments rained down on Earth, targeting military installations, infrastructure, and population centers alike. Skyscrapers crumbled under the force of energy blasts, reducing once thriving metropolises to smoldering ruins. Forests burned, oceans boiled, and millions perished in the ensuing devastation. The air was thick with smoke and ash, choking the survivors who clung to life amidst the rubble. It was a nightmare beyond comprehension, a glimpse of what total annihilation might look like. Despite the horrors unfolding below, the defenders in space refused to give up. Vasquez and her crew pushed their ships to the limit, launching daring assaults on the alien flagship. The behemoth loomed in the distance, its glowing core pulsating with malevolent energy. It was the nerve center of the entire armada, directing every move the invaders made. If they could disable it, the tide of the battle might turn decisively in humanity's favor. "Prepare boarding parties," Vasquez ordered, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms and explosions. "We're going in." The plan was risky, a suicide mission, really, but desperate times called for desperate measures. A team of elite soldiers, armed with prototype EMP grenades designed to disrupt alien technology, would infiltrate the flagship and sabotage its core systems. If successful, the attack would cripple the entire fleet, giving humanity a fighting chance. Lieutenant Sarah Patel, leader of the boarding party, stood in the hangar bay of the Erebus, checking her gear one last time. Around her, her squad, prepared in silence, their expressions grim but determined. They knew the odds were stacked against them. Once inside the alien vessel, they would face unknown dangers, hostile soldiers, automated defenses, and possibly worse. But none of them hesitated. This was their duty, their sacrifice for the greater good. As the Erebus closed in on the flagship, Vasquez addressed her crew one final time. "This isn't just about survival," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "It's about proving that we are more than what they think we are. We fight not because we must, but because we can." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a spark of defiance in everyone who heard them. With a final burst of speed, the Erebus collided with the alien dreadnought, breaching its hull and spilling humanity's finest warriors into its heart. Inside the alien ship, chaos erupted. The boarding party moved swiftly, their footsteps echoing through metallic corridors as they fought their way toward the core. Laser fire ricocheted off walls, filling the air with sparks and smoke. Enemy soldiers emerged from every direction, their forms grotesque and alien, but the humans held their ground. Each step forward was hard-won, paid for in blood and sweat. Patel led the charge, her rifle blazing as she shouted orders to her team. "Keep moving! Don't let them flank us!" Finally, after what felt like hours, the squad reached the core chamber. The room was vast, dominated by a towering structure that pulsed with energy. Wires and conduits snaked across the walls, feeding power into the central mechanism. Patel signaled for her team to take positions, covering the entrances while she planted the EMP grenades. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked, adrenaline coursing through her veins. When the last grenade was in place, she stepped back and gave the signal. "Detonate," she said into her comms. The grenades exploded in a blinding flash of light, sending shockwaves rippling through the alien network. Lights flickered and died, systems shut down, and the hum of machinery faded into silence. Outside, the effects were immediate. One by one, the alien ships powered down, drifting lifelessly in orbit. Cheers erupted aboard the surviving Aegis, destroyers as the invaders' grip on Earth shattered completely. On the Erebus Yalba, Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Against all odds, humanity had won. All hope was lost, until humans stepped in. The alien flagship groaned as its core systems collapsed, the once mighty vessel now a powerless hulk adrift in space. The EMP grenades had done their job, plunging the invaders into chaos. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Humanity's fleet, battered and bruised but still standing, hovered cautiously around the remnants of the enemy armada. Fires burned inside the alien ships, their glowing surfaces dimmed to a dull gray. It was a sight that defied belief. Humanity, the underdog, had struck a blow so decisive it left even its own warriors stunned. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Erebus, her hands gripping the railing as she stared out at the crippled alien fleet. Her mind raced with questions. Was this really over? Or was it just the calm before another storm? She glanced at her crew, their faces etched with exhaustion, but also a flicker of triumph. They had fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious for now. But Vasquez knew better than anyone that victory could be fleeting. The aliens might regroup, adapt, or worse, call for reinforcements. "Status report," she barked, snapping herself back to the present. Around her, officers scrambled to comply, their voices overlapping as they relayed updates. Shields were down to 12% across the fleet. Engines on 3 destroyers were critically damaged, leaving them unable to maneuver. Medical teams were overwhelmed, tending to wounded crew members who had survived harrowing battles. Supplies were running low, and morale, though high after the recent success, was fragile. If the aliens retaliated, humanity would be hard-pressed to defend itself again. Dr. Samuel Carter approached her, his face pale with worry. "Commander, we've got bigger problems," he said quietly, handing her a tablet displaying new data. Vasquez scanned the screen, her jaw tightening as she processed the information. Sensors had picked up unusual activity near the edge of Earth's orbit, a massive energy signature building rapidly. Whatever it wasn't natural, and it was heading straight toward them. Vasquez turned to Lieutenant Marcus Chen, who had returned from his fighter squadron's last sortie. His uniform was scorched and there was a fresh cut above his eyebrow, but his eyes burned with determination. "Chen, get your fighters ready. We may need you sooner than expected." He nodded without hesitation and jogged off the bridge, barking orders into his comm system. Meanwhile, Vasquez activated the fleet-wide channel. "All hands prepare for potential re-engagement. I repeat, prepare for re-engagement. This fight isn't over yet." Back on Earth, the initial euphoria over humanity's improbable victory began to wane as reports of the mysterious energy signature reached global leaders. News anchors struggled to explain what little information they had, speculating wildly about whether the aliens had one final trick up their sleeve. Social media buzzed with theories ranging from doomsday weapons to secret reinforcements arriving from deep space. Panic simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over if the situation worsened. In cities ravaged by earlier bombardments, survivors huddled together in makeshift shelters listening to distant rumblings in the sky. Some clung to hope, praying that Project Phoenix's fleet would hold the line. Others prepared for the worst, gathering whatever supplies they could find in case evacuation became necessary. Among them was a young girl named Maya, barely 10 years old, clutching a drawing she had made during the height of the battle. In crayon colors, it depicted Earth surrounded by starships fighting off menacing alien vessels. Her mother knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face as she whispered words of reassurance. "It'll be okay," she said, though her voice betrayed uncertainty. "They're protecting us." Above, the energy signature continued to grow stronger, pulsating like a heartbeat in the void of space. Then, without warning, the darkness erupted into light. Dozens of new ships appeared, their designs sleeker and more advanced than anything humanity had encountered so far. These weren't just reinforcements. They were an entirely different class of warship. Their hulls shimmered with an iridescent glow, and their weapons bristled with technology far beyond human comprehension. At their center floated a colossal vessel, easily twice the size of the original flagship, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe like living things. "They're calling for backup," muttered Lieutenant Sarah. Patel, who had barely escaped the alien dreadnought after planting the EMP grenades. She stood on the bridge of the Erebus, her body still aching from injuries sustained during the assault. We should have known they wouldn't go down that easily. Vasquez clenched her fists, frustration bubbling beneath her composed exterior. This changes nothing, she said firmly, addressing her crew. We've come too far to give up now. Adjust formations, focus fire on their lead ships. If we can take out their command structure, we might stand a chance. But the odds were staggering. The new alien fleet outnumbered humanity's surviving ships nearly 10-1. Worse, their weapons seemed capable of penetrating quantum shields with ease. Plasma bolts fired from the alien cannons tore through the weakened barriers, striking human vessels with devastating precision. One by one, the Aegis destroyers began to fall, their crews sacrificing themselves to buy precious seconds for the rest of the fleet. Explosions lit up the void, each blast a reminder of the cost of defiance. Amid the carnage, Vasquez made a decision that would either save humanity or doom it entirely. Divert all remaining power to the Erebus, she ordered. We're going in alone. Her crew stared at her in disbelief, but no one dared argue. They trusted her implicitly, knowing she would never ask them to do something she wasn't willing to do herself. The Erebus surged forward, breaking away from the protective formation of the remaining destroyers. Its engines roared as it hurtled toward the heart of the alien fleet, drawing fire from every direction. On board the other ships, soldiers watched in awe as the Erebus charged headlong into the fray. Lieutenant Chen led his squadron in a desperate attempt to cover the flagship, launching waves of attacks to distract the enemy. For Commander Vasquez, he shouted into his comms, rallying his pilots. Together, they dove into the chaos, weaving between the larger vessels and unleashing torrents of laser fire. Each shot was a gamble, every move a calculated risk. Behind them, the Erebus carved a path of destruction, its plasma cannons blazing as it closed in on the colossal alien command ship. Inside the alien vessel unknown to humanity, a council of alien leaders debated their next move. They had underestimated these primitive beings once already, and now they faced a dilemma: retreat and preserve their forces, or press on and risk further losses. The leader of the council, a towering figure with translucent skin and multiple, glowing eyes, raised a claw-like hand to silence the others. Enough, it hissed, its voice resonating with authority. These humans are resourceful, yes, but they cannot endure forever. Prepare the singularity weapon. Let them witness true power. Back aboard the Erebus, Vasquez felt the weight of impending doom pressing down on her. The alien command ship loomed closer, its surface rippling with ominous energy. Sensors detected a massive buildup within its core, a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen. If they didn't act fast, it would unleash devastation on a scale unimaginable. Full speed ahead, she commanded, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Ramming speed. Her crew exchanged nervous glances but obeyed, without question. The Erebus accelerated, its engines straining under the immense thrust. Outside, plasma bolts rained down on the ship, tearing through its hull and setting fires throughout the corridors. Alarms blared, warning of critical damage, but Vasquez ignored them. There was no turning back now. As the flagship collided with the alien vessel, a deafening explosion rocked the battlefield. Fire and debris spiraled outward, consuming both ships in a maelstrom of destruction. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a brilliant flash of light engulfed the area, blinding everyone who witnessed it. When the glare faded, the alien command ship was gone, obliterated by the impact. Without its leadership, the rest of the fleet faltered, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Seizing the opportunity, the surviving human ships launched a coordinated assault, picking off the disoriented invaders one by one. Hours later, the battle was finally over. The alien fleet lay in ruins, its ships drifting lifelessly in orbit. On Earth, people erupted in cheers as news of the victory spread. Tears of relief mixed with sorrow as the world mourned those lost in the conflict. In space, the battered remains of the Erebus floated silently, a testament to the bravery and sacrifice of its crew. Though Commander Vasquez and most of her team perished in the final assault, their legacy endured. Against all odds, humanity had risen to meet the challenge, and proven that even in the darkest hour, hope could prevail. All hope was lost until humans stepped in. The aftermath of the battle was a surreal and haunting sight. The void of space was littered with debris, twisted metal, shards of alien alloy, and the charred remains of ships that had once been mighty symbols of power. The Erebus, or what little remained of it, drifted silently, its hull cracked and blackened from the final collision with the alien command ship. Fires still smoldered in pockets aboard the wreckage, casting flickering orange glows against the cold darkness. It was a graveyard, a testament to the ferocity of the conflict and the sacrifices made by those who fought. Commander Elena Vasquez's voice echoed faintly in the minds of her surviving crew members. Though she was gone, her words lingered like a mantra. We fight not because we must, but because we can. Those words became a rallying cry for the broken yet determined survivors. Lieutenant Sarah Patel, who had barely escaped the alien dreadnought earlier, now stood aboard the Aegis blade, surveying the devastation. Her uniform was torn, her face streaked with soot, and her body ached from injuries sustained during the battle. Yet there was no time to rest. The war might be over, but the work was far from done. Scanning for survivors, Patel ordered, her voice firm despite the exhaustion weighing her down. Rescue pods were launched, their small craft, weaving through the wreckage in search of any remaining human life. Each discovery brought a mix of relief and sorrow. Some crew members had survived the destruction of their ships, floating in escape pods or clinging to pieces of debris. Others hadn't been so lucky. Bodies floated silently in the vacuum, frozen in eternal stillness. Patel clenched her fists as she watched the recovery efforts, vowing silently to honor their memory. Back on Earth, the mood was bittersweet. Cities lay in ruins, their streets lined with rubble and ash. Skyscrapers that once pierced the sky now resembled skeletal remains, their windows shattered and walls crumbling. Forests burned, oceans churned violently, and millions mourned the loss of loved ones. Yet amidst the devastation there was also hope. People gathered in squares and parks holding candles and singing songs of resilience. Children drew pictures of starships battling aliens, their crayon colors bright against the bleak backdrop. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. Governments around the world scrambled to assess the damage and begin rebuilding. Emergency response teams worked tirelessly to clear roads, distribute supplies, and provide medical care to the wounded. Factories that had pivoted to wartime production now shifted gears again, focusing on reconstruction. Amateur radio operators continued to relay information, helping coordinate relief efforts in areas cut off by the destruction. Even in the darkest moments, humanity's spirit shone through. Neighbors helped neighbors, strangers shared food and shelter, and communities came together in ways they never thought possible. In orbit, the surviving Aegis destroyers regrouped, forming a loose formation around Earth. Their numbers had dwindled dramatically. Only 5 ships remained operational out of the original fleet of 12. But they stood guard nonetheless, ready to defend their home if the aliens returned. Lieutenant Marcus Chen led his squadron of fighters in patrols, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. His fighter buzzed past the wreckage of alien vessels, its sensors pinging quietly as he searched for threats. The silence was eerie, almost unnatural, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Dr. Samuel Carter, stationed aboard the Aegis blade, worked around the clock to repair critical systems. His hands moved deftly across control panels, rerouting power and patching up damaged circuits. The ship's quantum shields were offline, its plasma cannons overheated, and its engines operating at reduced capacity. Yet Carter refused to give up. He knew these ships were humanity's lifeline. If another alien fleet arrived, they would need every advantage they could get. "We're not done yet," he muttered to himself, tightening a bolt on a malfunctioning generator. Not by a long shot. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Patel coordinated with ground forces to establish communication links between the fleet and Earth. Satellites had been destroyed during the invasion, severing vital lines of contact. Using makeshift equipment scavenged from damaged ships, Patel's team managed to restore partial connectivity. Messages began flowing again, updates on casualties, requests for aid, and heartfelt thanks from civilians who owed their lives to Project Phoenix. Hearing those messages reignited a sense of purpose among the crew. They weren't just soldiers, they were saviors. As days turned into weeks, the reality of the situation began to sink in. The alien threat may have been neutralized for now, but the scars ran deep. Billions of lives had been lost, entire ecosystems disrupted, and economies shattered. Rebuilding would take years, perhaps decades, and even then, nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, and it had paid a heavy price. But with that pain came knowledge. Earth was no longer an isolated planet, it was part of a vast and dangerous universe, and humanity had proven it could hold its own. One evening, Patel stood on the bridge of the Aegis Blade, staring out at the stars. The view was breathtaking, a tapestry of light stretching endlessly into infinity. For centuries, humans had looked up at the night sky with wonder, dreaming of what lay beyond. Now they knew the truth. The cosmos was beautiful, yes, but also perilous. Aliens existed, and not all of them came in peace. Still, Patel couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Against all odds, they had risen to the challenge. She turned to Dr. Carter, who was seated nearby, poring over data logs. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked softly. Carter looked up, his expression thoughtful. "It's possible," he admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready. This battle taught us something important. We're stronger than we realized, smarter too. Next time we won't be caught off guard." Patel nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Next time, we'll win faster." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. The ship's sensors had detected activity near the edge of Earth's orbit. Not hostile, but unusual. Patel frowned, leaning closer to the monitor. A single alien vessel, smaller than the ones they had encountered before, hovered cautiously in the distance. Its design was sleek and unfamiliar, its surface shimmering faintly in the sunlight. Unlike the warships that had invaded Earth, this one seemed peaceful. "What are they doing here?" Chen asked, joining Patel on the bridge. His hand hovered near the trigger of his sidearm, ready to act if necessary. Patel raised a hand to calm him. "Let's find out," she said. Activating the comm system, she addressed the mysterious ship. "This is Lieutenant Sarah Patel of the Aegis Blade. Identify yourself immediately." For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice responded, not mechanical and cold like the previous transmissions, but warm and melodic. "We mean no harm," it said in fluent English. "We are emissaries from the Coalition of Free Worlds. Your actions have inspired us. We wish to negotiate terms of alliance." Patel exchanged a stunned glance with Carter and Chen. Could it be true? Had humanity's defiance earned them allies instead of enemies? She hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks. Finally, she replied, "State your intentions clearly. One wrong move, and we'll open fire." The alien ship transmitted a holographic message projecting an image of its captain onto the bridge. The figure was tall and slender, with luminous eyes and skin that shimmered like liquid silver. "We have observed your species for centuries," the captain explained. "You are young, reckless, and flawed, but also courageous. When others surrendered to fear, you chose to fight. That is why we offer our support. Together, we can ensure such aggression never happens again." Patel felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something greater. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. Slowly, cautiously, she extended an invitation. "Dock with us. Let's talk." As the alien ship approached, Patel allowed herself a moment of reflection. All hope had been lost, until humans stepped in. And, now standing on the brink of a new era, she realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology. It was its unyielding will to survive, to adapt, and to dream of a better future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not just as individuals but as a united species. The alien emissary, Captain Zinara, stepped onto the bridge of the Aegis blade with an air of grace and solemnity. Her luminous eyes scanned the room, taking in the weary but determined faces of Lieutenant Sarah Patel, Dr. Samuel Carter, and Lieutenant Marcus Chen. Behind her, 2 other members of her species followed, their movements fluid and deliberate. The atmosphere was tense. Humanity had just fought a brutal war against extraterrestrials, and trust did not come easily. Yet there was something about Zinara's demeanor that inspired calm, a quiet confidence that seemed genuine. "Thank you for allowing us aboard," Zinara began, her voice melodic yet firm. "We represent the Coalition of Free Worlds, a collective of civilizations committed to peace and mutual cooperation across the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Your actions during the recent conflict have earned our respect. Few species would dare defy such overwhelming odds. Fewer still would succeed." Patel crossed her arms, studying the alien carefully. "Why now?" she asked bluntly. "For centuries, your kind watched us from afar while we struggled to survive. Why step forward now?" Zainara inclined her head slightly, acknowledging the question. "It is true that many of our kind underestimated Earth. We believed you were too primitive, too divided to pose any real threat or value. But when your fleet emerged from beneath the Arctic ice, when you chose to fight rather than surrender, you proved us wrong. Humanity has shown it possesses qualities rare in the cosmos: resilience, ingenuity, and unity in the face of despair. These are traits the Coalition values deeply." Dr. Carter leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "And what does this alliance entail? What do you expect from us?" Zainara gestured to one of her companions, who activated a holographic display. Images of advanced technology, sprawling space stations, and diverse alien species filled the air. "We offer knowledge, resources, and protection," she explained. "In return, we ask for your participation in the Coalition. Your voice will carry weight in galactic matters, and your contributions, be they scientific, cultural, or military, will strengthen our shared goals." Lieutenant Chen raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Sounds good on paper," he said. "But how do we know this isn't some trick? How do we know you won't turn on us later?" Zainara smiled faintly, though the expression held no malice. "Trust must be earned, Lieutenant. We understand your skepticism. To prove our sincerity, we bring gifts." With another gesture, her companion summoned a small device that floated gently into the center of the room. It hummed softly, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with light. "This is a quantum core, a power source far beyond anything currently available to you. It can sustain entire cities, power starships indefinitely, and accelerate your technological progress by decades. Consider it a gesture of goodwill." Patel exchanged a glance with Carter and Chen. The implications were staggering. If the device worked as promised, it could revolutionize life on Earth and help rebuild after the devastation wrought by the invasion. Still, caution lingered in her mind. "What's the catch?" she pressed. "There's always a catch." Zinara's expression grew serious. "The only condition is that you join the Coalition. You will be expected to contribute to our collective efforts, whether through diplomacy, research, or defense. In time, you may even take part in missions beyond your solar system, but make no mistake, this is not charity. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, and isolation is no longer an option. By joining us, you ensure your survival." Back on Earth, news of the potential alliance spread like wildfire. Governments convened emergency sessions to discuss the proposal. Scientists debated the implications of the quantum core, and ordinary citizens voiced their opinions on social media. Some welcomed the idea of aligning with alien powers, seeing it as humanity's chance to step boldly into the future. Others feared the unknown, arguing that relying on extraterrestrial aid might weaken Earth's independence. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds chanting slogans ranging from "Embrace the Stars" to "Earth First." Commander Elena Vasquez's sacrifice became a rallying point for those advocating unity. Her final act of bravery, the collision of the Erebus with the alien command ship, was immortalized in headlines and memorials worldwide. Statues of her likeness were erected in parks and town squares, each bearing the inscription, "All hope was lost until humans stepped in." Her name became synonymous with courage and selflessness, inspiring millions to believe in humanity's potential to thrive among the stars. Amid the debates, reconstruction efforts continued at a feverish pace. Factories churned out prefabricated housing units to shelter displaced families. Engineers worked around the clock to repair infrastructure, using designs provided by Project Phoenix. Farmers planted crops in irradiated soil, experimenting with genetically modified seeds resistant to contamination. Slowly but surely, life began to return to normal, or at least a new version of normal. Children played in the streets again, their laughter echoing through neighborhoods once reduced to rubble. Artists painted murals depicting starships battling, aliens blending scenes of destruction with symbols of hope. Musicians composed songs celebrating humanity's triumph, their melodies broadcast across radio waves and streaming platforms. Even in grief, people found ways to create beauty, to remind themselves of what made life worth fighting for. In orbit, the surviving Aegis destroyers prepared to escort the alien emissaries back to their home world. Lieutenant Patel stood on the bridge of the Aegis blade, staring out at the stars. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of optimism. The road ahead would be challenging, but humanity had proven it could adapt and overcome. As the ships powered up for the journey, Patel addressed her crew over the comm system. "This isn't just a mission," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "It's a new chapter for humanity. We've fought for our survival, and now we're being given a chance to shape our destiny. Whatever happens next, remember this. We didn't get here by giving up. We got here because we refused to bow to fear. Let's show the galaxy what we're capable of." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a spark of determination among the crew. Together they set course for the alien homeworld, leaving behind the wreckage of battle and the scars of war. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also possibility, a chance to forge alliances, share knowledge, and explore the mysteries of the universe. As the fleet disappeared into the vastness of space, Earth watched with bated breath. Billions tuned into live broadcasts, watching as human starships ventured farther than ever before. For the first time, humanity wasn't looking up at the stars. It was reaching for them. And though the journey would be long and fraught with challenges, one truth remained undeniable. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. All hope was lost, until humans stepped in.